Nearly 100 members of the Ku Klux Klan surrounded a black-owned ranch deep in the Mississippi Delta, carrying rifles, coils of rope, and a written assurance from the sheriff himself that no one would step in. Their target was Elijah Mercer, a heavy, limping landowner they sneered at as too slow to escape and too frightened to fight back. They counted themselves out loud, bickered over who would strike the first match at dawn, and eagerly accepted his offer to sign over the land. Greed, they believed, had settled everything. But by morning, the county faced a very different problem. Some of the men were dead, others had vanished without a trace. Several swore they had been shot by their own brothers. Hoods were pulled off, names were spoken openly, careers collapsed overnight. The mob's bold confidence dissolved into stunned silence, and no one could explain how the man they came to erase was still alive. Before we go any further, comment where in the world you are watching from, and make sure to subscribe, because tomorrow's story is one you do not want to miss. The final light of day stretched long shadows across Elijah Mercer's cotton fields. His huge body moved with slow intention as he gathered up tools from the day's labor, every motion careful and deliberate. The limp in his right leg worsened after hours of work, forcing him to stop every few steps as he headed toward the barn. Standing 6'4" and weighing close to 300 pounds, Big Eli was impossible to overlook. Still, he had learned how to make himself seem smaller than he was. His shoulders stayed hunched, his eyes lowered, his voice gentle whenever he spoke to white folks in town. They saw exactly what they wanted, just another aging colored man, too simple to pose danger, too slow to inspire anything but pity. The evening air felt thick with late summer heat as Eli locked the barn doors. His lonely ranch stretched across 20 acres of some of the richest soil in the Mississippi Delta, hemmed in by cypress trees and deep darkness. No neighbors for miles, no one close enough to hear what might happen out here. He had chosen this land carefully 15 years earlier, knowing that isolation protected and endangered in equal measure. Crickets sang steadily as Eli gathered eggs from the henhouse. His rough hands, softened by repetition, placed each egg gently into the basket. The chickens barely stirred, settled in for the night. Everything felt normal. Everything felt ordinary until it suddenly was not. The first torch appeared along the tree line like a demon's eye opening in the dark. Then another followed, and another after that. Soon the entire edge of his property burned with fire, each flame raised high by white-robed figures stepping out of the shadows. They moved with the easy confidence of men who believe the night belonged to them. Eli slowly straightened, his massive shape casting a long shadow in the torchlight. He counted quickly at least 100 men, rifles dull and deadly in the firelight. The sight of the hoods did not shock him. He had known this moment would come the day he bought the land. Sheriff Halverson's voice carried across the yard, steady and familiar, the same tone he used at town meetings. "Mercer, we know you're out there. Best come to the house now. We've got business to finish before sunrise." Eli's eyes caught the shine of the sheriff's badge, pinned proudly over the white robe. Standing beside him was Reverend Matthews, his hood pushed back so his face was clearly visible in the torchlight. No shame, no hiding. The law and the church stood shoulder to shoulder with the Klan, making their message plain. This to them was justice. More torches flared to life, completing the fiery ring around the property. Flames threw twisting shadows across the white hoods, making them seem alive as the smell of kerosene and pine tar filled the air. "Your time's up, boy," a voice shouted. "Shouldn't have gotten ideas above your place." Eli began moving toward his house with exaggerated care, letting his limp show more than usual. His hands shook as he climbed the porch steps, playing the role of a terrified colored man perfectly. Exactly what they expected. He could feel their satisfaction, taste their certainty that this would be simple. The wooden boards groaned under his weight as he reached the front door. Behind him, the circle of fire crept closer. The sharp sound of multiple rifles being cocked sliced through the night. "Turn around, Mercer," Sheriff Halverson ordered. "Face us like a man." Eli turned slowly, his wide body filling the doorway. Torchlight caught the sweat on his dark skin, making it shine. His hands lifted above his head, fingers spread to show they were empty. His eyes stayed low, his shoulders sagged. He looked like the very image of surrender. "Please," he said, his voice shaking just enough. "I don't want no trouble." Laughter rolled through the crowd. This was the Eli Mercer they thought they knew. The big, slow man who shuffled through town with his eyes on the ground. The harmless giant who spoke softly and moved carefully. His shadow loomed huge against the house, but they only saw what fit their beliefs. A man too dull to threaten them, too afraid to resist. Eli stood still on the porch, arms raised as the ring of flames tightened. Under their stares, his presence seemed to shrink, becoming smaller, weaker, safer. Everything they saw confirmed their assumptions. That size meant nothing without courage. That strength meant nothing without will. They saw exactly what he had spent years teaching them to see. Sheriff Halverson stepped forward, his badge flashing in the firelight. "You know why we're here, Mercer. This land's too good for your kind. Time to fix things." Eli's voice barely carried as he answered. "I got papers. Paid fair and square. Papers don't mean a thing tonight." Deputy L. Denton snapped, pushing forward with his hand resting on his pistol. "Only thing that matters is what's right, and you owning this dirt ain't right." Eli's hands shook harder. "What if I signed it over?" he asked. "The land, the house, everything." His words spilled out fast and desperate. "Just let me go north. I won't come back. You can have it all, legal and proper." Silence fell. Several hooded men exchanged looks. Greed interrupted cruelty. Pastor Gideon Crow stepped forward, hood pushed back to reveal his hard face. "Perhaps we should consider this," he said. "If our colored friend admits his mistake and leaves peacefully, does that not serve the Lord better?" Peaceful?" Denton spat. "Letting him walk sends the wrong message." The pastor's voice stayed calm but firm. "The message would be that order prevails without needless bloodshed." Sheriff Halverson raised his hand, ending the argument. "You're saying you'll sign everything over, Mercer?" "Yes, sir." Eli nodded quickly. "The deed's inside. I'll sign proper witnesses and all. Just let me Oh. Murmurs spread through the mob. 20 acres of prime Delta land was worth a fortune. Deputy Denton protested, but Halverson shut him down. "This is property now. That makes it my call." He turned back to Eli. "We'll be back at dawn. Have those papers ready. No tricks." "No tricks," Eli said softly. "I'll be ready. Just don't hurt me." Satisfied, the pastor nodded. "See how reason wins." Some men grumbled, angry their violence was delayed. Denton's face burned with rage. "Dawn," the sheriff confirmed. "And don't think about running. We've got eyes on every road." Eli nodded fearfully. "Yes, sir. Ain't nowhere else to go." Laughter followed as the mob backed away, torches still high. "Enjoy your last night," Denton called. "By sunrise, it'll belong to white folks." They vanished into the trees, their fire fading like wicked spirits. Eli stood on the porch until the last flame disappeared. Only then did he lower his arms and step inside, locking the door behind him. In the darkness, something in him changed. His shoulders straightened. His movements became smooth and certain. He stood silent as the sounds of the mob drifted away, confident in their victory. Minutes later, Eli moved through the house with quiet precision, lit a single oil lamp, and kept the flame low. The weak light revealed a man who was no longer pretending. The shine of a well-oiled wooden floor near his bed caught his eye. His thick fingers followed a seam so faint it was almost impossible to see. With steady, familiar movements, he lifted 3 planks and exposed a deep hollow underneath. The soft glow of the lamp revealed metal that had not touched daylight for many years. From the hiding place, Eli pulled the items out one at a time, laying them across the bed with calm, careful order. There was a Springfield M13 rifle, its stock carved with small marks only he understood. 3 Colt M1911 pistols followed, each one cleaned every week even though they had not been fired in over 20 years. Boxes of ammunition came next, wrapped in oily cloth to keep moisture away. More objects appeared. A leather gun belt, worn smooth from long years of fighting. A military compass with a dull brass case, its inner workings still exact and true. Straps and pouches that still carry. Dried mud from the trenches of France. Every piece held a memory of the war that had shaped the man he became. Eli ran his hands slowly along the rifle barrel and remembered standing at Camp Shelby 20 years earlier, facing rows of white soldiers while teaching them how to shoot with care and control. Back then, they called him Big Eli as well, but the name held respect instead of ridicule. He had been the finest marksman in the South, maybe in the entire army, a truth that vanished from official records once the war ended. Some of those same men now wore white hoods and burned crosses. He had recognized their voices earlier that night, hidden beneath shouting and hate. Men he had trained to aim steady, to breathe right, to kill with purpose. Men who returned home angry that a black man owned better land than they did. A quiet knock sounded at the back door, breaking his thoughts. 3 taps, a pause, then 2 more. Caleb Johnson's signal. Eli moved without sound, a gun already in his hand, though he knew the boy's footsteps as well as his own. Caleb slipped inside, his young face tense in the lamplight. "Mr. Eli, they aren't planning to keep that deal. I heard Deputy Denton talking with others down by Carter's Creek. They're coming back before sunrise to burn you out." Eli nodded slowly. He had expected nothing less. "You took a big risk coming here, son. I had to warn you." Caleb's eyes drifted to the weapons spread across the bed. "You aren't really going to sign over the land, are you?" "No." Eli checked the action on each pistol, his hands moving on instinct from years of habit. "But you need to leave. Whatever happens tonight, you can't be here. I could help. My daddy taught me how to shoot. Your daddy taught you how to live," Eli said gently, cutting him off. "That's what you need to do now. Go home, stay there. If anyone asks, you haven't seen me since yesterday morning." Caleb hesitated. "They'll kill you." A faint smile touched Eli's face. "They'll try." He lifted a pistol and checked the sights. "You know why I got so heavy after the war, Caleb?" The boy shook his head. "Because fat men don't scare anyone. Fat men who walk slow and talk softer still. They seem harmless, invisible, people don't watch them." His voice stayed calm, but something sharp slipped into it. "I've spent 20 years being harmless, watching them, learning how they move, how they think, where they fail." He began loading magazines, each motion steady and sure. They see what they expect, a scared black man who forgot his place. They don't see the man who trained half their shooters, the man whose name was whispered in the trenches. Each bullet slid into place with a clean metal click. They erased that man from the records and pretended he never existed. "What are you going to do?" Caleb asked quietly. Eli checked his watch. "Just after 2 now. I'm going to remind them why they tried so hard to make me disappear." He looked straight at the boy. "Goj. Whatever you hear tonight, stay inside. Whatever they say tomorrow, keep your mouth shut. You understand?" Caleb nodded. "Yes, sir." He reached the door, then stopped. "Mr. Eli, make sure they remember." After Caleb left, Eli kept working. Every move was exact, unhurried. He placed ammunition at key spots around the house, checked his weapons again, studied the view through each window, measured distances to trees, fences, and sheds. Beyond the lamp's light, the night was pitch black. Somewhere out there, more than 100 men waited, sure of their strength and their cause. They had torches, numbers, and the law behind them. What they did not have was the truth about the man they hunted. The lamp flickered as Eli loaded another magazine. The moon had already gone down, leaving only faint starlight to cut through the thick delta darkness. From an upstairs window, he watched shadows move across his fields. The white robes of the clansmen caught what little light there was, making them easier to follow than they knew. Eli had chosen his position with care. Years of working this land had taught him every slope, every hollow, every advantage. Through his rifle scope, he counted at least 30 men coming from the west in loose groups of 3 or 4. Their confidence made them sloppy. He slowed his breathing, recalling the lessons he had taught so many soldiers. 4 counts in, hold, 4 counts out. His finger rested beside the trigger, waiting. A voice drifted up from B. Low, spread out, circle the house. Eli recognized Deputy Denton's lazy drawl. The man had always rushed, his shots during training. Some habits never left. Denton waved his arms wide, standing clear against the tree line, making himself an easy mark. Eli waited. Patience had kept him alive for 47 years. It would do so again. The first group reached the south fence. One man tripped over a wire Eli had strung low to the ground. His curse rang loud in the still night. The others turned toward him, bunching together just as Eli planned. The first shot was not meant to kill. The rifle's crack split the darkness and shattered a fence post beside them. Men scattered, shouting in panic. 2 more shots kicked dirt at their feet. "Sniper!" someone yelled. "Get down!" Eli was already moving. His size made no sound as he crossed the room. He knew every creak and loose board. In the dark, he became a shadow. From the north side of the house came the sound of glass breaking as someone tried to climb in. Eli smiled grimly. He had left that window unlocked on purpose, with a wire set just inside. A crash and a sharp curse told him it worked. Gunfire erupted, wild and poorly aimed. Bullets slammed into thick walls or flew uselessly into the night. Eli answered with calm, controlled shots. He did not aim to kill, not yet. Instead, he guided them, driving them with fear and confusion like cattle. Movement near the barn caught his eye. A man was trying to reach it with a torch. Eli Ed, splintering a support beam inches from the man's head. The torch fell, forgotten, as the man ran. From a hidden spot near Carter's Creek, Caleb Johnson watched it all. He had not gone home like he promised. Instead, he positioned himself where he could see both the house and the road. He saw the confident advance fall apart into chaos. Through his scope, Eli spotted Sheriff Halverson trying to pull his men together. "It's just one old black man," the sheriff shouted. "Form up." Eli fired, kicking dirt into the sheriff's robe. Halverson dove for cover, his authority vanishing as fast as his courage. By 4 in the morning, the night had turned into pure confusion. Eli moved through the house, firing from different spots, never staying long enough to be pinned down. He knew these men, or men just like them. He knew how they thought. They expected a straight fight. Instead, they faced a ghost that seemed to be everywhere at once. Some ran outright, others hid behind trees or equipment, unsure whether to move forward or flee. A few tried to organize, but Eli's shots always broke their plans. Near the creek, Caleb watched several men half carry a wounded companion toward the road. The man's robe was smeared with mud and blood, likely hurt while jumping a fence in blind panic. Others were scattered across the fields, their order destroyed, their confidence gone. As dawn neared, Pastor Crow finally called for retreat. The remaining men pulled back toward the trees in small Ken groups. Their torches were gone, their robes filthy with dirt and fear. Eli watched them through his scope and counted fewer than 60. The rest had vanished into the dark. Those left stood close together, confused and angry. They had come for a helpless victim. They found a deadly teacher they had tried to erase. The eastern sky slowly brightened. Darkness would no longer hide anyone. Eli knew the hardest part was still ahead. Shame would demand revenge, but for now, he had shown them a truth they could never forget. The fat man they mocked had become a phantom in the night, a master they wished had stayed buried. As light spread across the fields, Eli reloaded his weapons with the same steady care. Morning would bring new trials, but his message was clear. They would never again mistake his silence for weakness. The first sunlight rolled across his land, turning dew into gold. Night gave way to sharp clarity. White robes that once blended with darkness now stood out against green cotton rows. Through his scope, Eli watched the remaining men shift uneasily. Their order was gone, replaced by scattered, nervous clusters. Some were pressed tight against trees, while others dropped low behind old farm equipment. Every one of them understood that daylight had betrayed them and made them easy to see. "Spread out," Sheriff Halverson yelled from behind a rusted tractor. "Don't stay so close together." Eli reacted without hesitation. His first shot of the morning struck a man clear in the shoulder as he tried to rush between cover. The bullet landed exactly where Eli aimed, sending a loud and terrifying message. The wounded man cried out, grabbing his arm as dark blood soaked into his white robe. "Dear God," Pastor Crow's voice echoed across the open field. "Thompson's been hit." 2 men ran toward the fallen man to help him. Eli fired again, the bullet kicking dirt up between their feet and forcing them to dive apart. A third shot followed, grazing another man's leg as he tried to flee. The meaning was clear to everyone watching. Any movement would be punished. Fear swept through the clan like fire. Someone panicked and fired wildly toward the house. Others followed, shooting without aim or thought. Bullets slammed into wood or hissed uselessly through the air. Eli stayed calm and steady, placing each shot with careful control. "Watch your fire!" Deputy Denton shouted in panic as bullets from his own side nearly hit him. "You're firing at us!" In the confusion, a shot from within the chaos struck one of the clansmen in the back. He collapsed, and as his hood slipped off, his face was revealed. It was Marcus Wheeler, the bank manager. Blood spread across his robe while others dragged him toward cover. "They're shooting their own," someone screamed. "There's more than one shooter." Eli shifted to another window, changing position. The sun had climbed higher, washing the field in harsh light and erasing the shadows. Through his scope, he watched order fall apart. Clan members fired at any movement, even among themselves. Trust vanished, replaced by fear and suspicion. Sheriff Halverson tried to regain control, standing tall to rally his men. His hood slid back, exposing his face to the open field. Eli fired, the bullet striking the ground near his boots. The sheriff dropped instantly, scrambling backward on his hands and knees. Whatever authority he had left disappeared in that moment. "Fall back," Pastor Crow shouted. "Everyone fall back." Eli's bullet hit him in the thigh. The pastor went down hard, his hood falling away as his face twisted with pain and rage. Men tried to reach him, but accurate shots forced them away. He lay there in the open, his identity clear to everyone watching. More hoods fell as panic took over. William Tate, the hardware store owner, George Preston from the feed store. Men who smiled at Eli in town now stared back at him with terror and hate from his own land. "It's a trap," someone yelled. "They planned this." The accusation sparked shouting and arguing. Groups turned on each other as old grudges exploded under pressure. Two men fought briefly, their hoods coming off to reveal they were brothers from a well-known family. By mid-morning, the cotton fields looked like a battlefield. White robes were stained deep red. 4 men lay dead where they fell, abandoned by those who ran. Others crawled or limped through the rows, desperate to escape. Sporadic gunfire mixed with groans and angry shouts. "W. Ho's really shooting?" Deputy Denton cried, his voice breaking. "This ain't right." More shots answered him from their own side. Trust was completely gone. Every movement drew gunfire. Every shadow seemed dangerous. Men who had come as hunters now fled like hunted animals, unsure who stood with them. Eli never lost control. His shots cut through the chaos like punctuation. He chose his targets with care. A knee here, a shoulder there. Each bullet reminded them of a skill they had ignored for too long. The retreat turned into a full rout. Small groups broke away, leaving their wounded behind. Some tore off their robes and ran openly through the fields. Others crawled low between cotton rows. The unity they'd shown the night before collapsed into every man for himself. Sheriff Halverson tried one last time. "Fall back to the road, together." But there was no together left. His men were already scattering in every direction. Some ran north, others south. Years of shared hatred fell apart under fear and exposed faces. Through his scope, Eli watched them run. The morning sun showed everything clearly. Every stumble, every abandoned man, every act of cowardice. The powerful clan was reduced to frightened men in filthy white robes, fleeing from fear they had created themselves. The late morning sun beat down hard on Eli's fields. The air smelled of gun smoke and iron-rich blood. Where chaos had ruled moments earlier, an uneasy quiet now settled over the cotton rows. Only the acacio, now groan of the wounded, broke the silence. Eli moved carefully through his house, checking each window with the same discipline he'd learned long ago. 4 bodies lay scattered across his land. More wounded had escaped, leaving dark trails behind them. He found Caleb in the root cellar, exactly where he'd told him to stay. "They're gone?" Caleb whispered, eyes wide but steady. "Most of them," Eli said, helping him stand. The ones who could still run, they stepped outside together into the bright light. Eli kept his rifle ready as they slowly walked around the house. Bullet holes dotted the wooden walls, but the structure still stood strong. The reinforced shutters and angled boards had done their job. "Look," Caleb said, pointing at 2 abandoned robes crumpled in the dirt, stained dark with blood. "They left everything," Caleb added. "Pride fades fast when survival takes over," Eli said softly. They checked the tree line where the mob had gathered the night before. It stood empty now, leaves moving gently in the breeze. Along the perimeter, they found more proof of collapse. Dropped rifles, loose ammunition, even a pocket watch Eli recognized from the bank. Men had fled with nothing but their lives and their faces exposed. "I've never seen anything like this," Caleb said. "The way you handled them made them turn on each other." "They did that themselves," Eli replied. "Fear just showed what was already inside them." He studied bullet marks in the dirt. All those years acting superior, and they broke just like anyone else once things turned. The morning proved what Eli had learned during the war. His most dangerous weapon wasn't his aim. It was his ability to let enemies destroy themselves. He had never wanted to use that skill again, but it never left him. As they walked the cotton rows, footprints showed wild escape paths in every direction. Shell casings lay everywhere from panicked shooting. Blood drops marked where Eli's careful shots had landed. "They say you were the best shot in the South during the war," Caleb said quietly. "People say plenty," Eli replied. "Being good with a rifle isn't something to be proud of. It just means you know how to hurt people when you must." At the edge of the property, tire tracks cut deep into the dirt where vehicles had fled. The sunlight showed how order had turned into desperation. "You think they'll come back?" Caleb asked. Before Eli could answer, sirens wailed in the distance, growing louder. "Go back to the house," Eli said. "Clean up any shells. Take the back trail home. Don't let anyone see you." "What about you?" Caleb asked. "I'll handle what's coming," Eli said firmly. "Your mama needs you safe." As Caleb hurried away, Eli watched dust rise on the road. Sirens cut through the heavy air. He'd expected this. Standing in his scarred fields, Eli felt no victory. He had survived, but the cost lay around him in blood and brass. The first black federal car appeared, sunlight flashing off its windshield. Another followed close behind. They pulled in fast, doors opening together as men in dark suits stepped out, badges shining. They spread across the land with quiet purpose. A tall man approached Eli. "I'm Agent Morris, Federal Bureau. Put the rifle down, Mr. Mercer." Eli lowered the rifle to the ground. Two agents took it like evidence, not protection. "We have reports of serious unrest," Morris said calmly. "Casualties, missing people. Care to explain?" "My property was attacked," Eli said evenly. "I defended myself." Agents moved through the cotton rows, marking shells and photographing blood and abandoned robes. They recorded everything except the truth. "Caleb Johnson," an agent called out, dragging Caleb from the backfield. "Got another one here." Eli's chest tightened as he watched them. Punctuation roughly cuffed the young man. Caleb's eyes locked onto his, full of fear and confusion. "He has nothing to do with this," Eli said in a hard, steady voice. "He's only a farm worker." Agent Morris did not react. He motioned for two men to take Caleb toward one of the cars. "We'll sort out who did what back at the station. For now, you're going to tell me exactly how this played out." They walked Eli around his own land, forcing him to point out every spot, every movement, every shot fired. The agents wrote things down, but never once asked about how the clan had attacked first. Their attention stayed fixed on him alone. On what he did, how he reacted, and the choices he made. 4 confirmed dead, one agent said as he approached with a notebook. All well-known businessmen. 2 others missing, likely injured. Sheriff Halverson says a peaceful meeting was met with sudden gunfire. Peaceful? Eli spoke without feeling. They came carrying torches and rifles, 100 men wearing hoods. "Funny how there are no hoods left as evidence," Morris replied. "Just as funny as the fact these men were shot with clean, trained accuracy, almost like someone with military experience was involved." Noise from the road pulled their attention away. 3 pickup trucks rolled in, packed with men Eli recognized from the night before. Now they wore plain clothes, their faces uncovered, twisted with open hate. They began unloading gas cans. "Sir," one of them called to Morris, "we're here to contain the situation. Orders from the fire department." Morris nodded. "Keep it under control. We don't want this spreading to nearby land." Eli watched in silent rage as the same men who had tried to kill him hours earlier started pouring gasoline along the edges of his cotton fields. The sharp chemical smell filled the morning air. "This is my land," Eli said quietly. "My life's work. This is an active crime scene," Morris corrected, "and a danger to the whole county. Sometimes fire is the best way to keep things from spreading." A match flared to life. Flames tore through the cotton rows, fast and hungry under the bright sun. Thick black smoke climbed into the sky. The men moved with purpose, lighting more fires, watching with grim satisfaction as Eli's world burned. From inside a federal car, Caleb pressed his face to the window, tears running freely. The agents made Eli stand there, forcing him to watch as his cotton, his income, his freedom, all turned into ash under official watch. The heat grew stronger as the fire spread. Eli's face stayed calm, but his fists tightened. He had survived the night only to see his enemies finish the job in daylight, protected by badges and rules. "Once the fire department clears the area, we'll take you into town for more questioning," Morris said. "Until then, you stay here." The flames climbed higher, destroying years of careful work. Eli knew every row, every corner of that land. He knew how the soil behaved, where the water settled after rain, where the cotton grew thick and strong. Now it all disappeared into smoke. Through the heat waves he saw his attackers watching from their trucks. In daylight their faces were clear. Some smiled, others just stared. Their fear from the night before was gone, replaced by comfort and power. The system had protected them, turning their failure into success. The victory Eli felt that morning tasted like ash now. He stood surrounded by federal agents, watching his dreams burn. The deadliest shooter in the South had survived the fight, but he was losing everything else, one burning row at a time. By late afternoon, the sun stretched long shadows across the front of the county jail as Eli stepped outside. His clothes still smelled of smoke. His body ached from hours on a hard metal chair, answering the same questions again and again. They let him go without charges, but not without warning. "You have until sundown to leave the county," Agent Morris said, eyes on his paperwork. "Be glad we're not taking this further." Eli stood on the sidewalk as townspeople hurried past, avoiding his eyes. Some had been part of the mob. Others had stood by while his fields burned. Now they all shared the same practiced blindness. A black Ford stopped at the curb. Lillian Johnson, Caleb's mother, sat behind the wheel. Worry lined her face, but her movements were calm as she stepped out and opened the trunk. "They're still holding Caleb," she said softly. "But I have something you need to see." She lifted out an old wooden box, worn smooth with age. Eli recognized the military markings right away, the same unit he had served with during the war. "I found this in Marcus Thompson's attic last week," Lillian said as they sat on a bench nearby. Marcus was the regiment's quartermaster, one of the few who treated black soldiers with respect. He passed last month. His wife asked me to go through his things. Eli opened the box slowly. Inside were yellowed papers, official forms and bundles of letters tied with faded ribbon. His hands shook slightly as he picked up the first folder. "Training records," Lillian said. "Shooting evaluations. Commendatio. NS that never made it into official files." Marcus kept copies of everything. Eli scanned the pages, seeing his name over and over. Best marksman in the unit. Advanced tactical training. Instruction given to white officers. His throat tightened at the familiar handwriting of men long gone. "There's more," Lillian said, handing him letters. "Messages between officers about your skills, about why certain achievements needed to be changed in the final reports. And this." She gave him a thick envelope, sealed but never opened. The writing read, "To be delivered to E. Mercer in the event of my death." Inside was a detailed record, names, dates, places, every effort made to erase Eli's wartime record. Officers who trained under him, then returned home and joined the Klan. Officials who changed documents, a system designed to make sure no one remembered that black soldiers didn't just serve, but excelled. Marcus knew what they might do, Lillian said quietly. He kept proof and waited until he was out of their reach. Eli read page after page as the light faded. This was proof not just of personal wrongdoing, but of a system built on lies. The same system that burned his fields instead of admitting he had the right to defend himself. "What will you do now?" Lillian asked. Eli placed the papers back in the box with care. The sun was sinking, his deadline close. Violence had only brought ashes, but truth could travel farther than bullets. "There are people who need to see this," he said. "Reporters, lawyers, people who use words instead of guns to force change." Lillian nodded. "I know people up north, others gathering proof, building cases." "They tried to erase me twice," Eli said, watching people rush past. "First my service, then my land. But paper remembers longer than soil." He stood and lifted the box. It felt heavy, heavier than a rifle, but far more powerful. "What about Caleb?" he asked. "They'll release him tomorrow, once you're gone," Lillian said. "I'll make sure he's safe." The sun touched the horizon, painting the street red. Eli looked back at the town that tried to destroy him. He had survived their violence, but he would not answer it with more blood. The most dangerous weapon was not his aim, but the truth they buried. "Time to go," Lillian said gently as she started the car. Eli placed the box in the back seat. As they drove toward the county line, the sky burned with color. Behind them, the town faded into darkness, its secrets sealed in ink and paper, waiting to be revealed. The next morning, just after sunrise, Eli boarded a northbound bus in Memphis. The wooden box stayed close between his feet as the engine started. Other passengers barely noticed the large, quiet man in the back. That suited him fine. Being unnoticed felt safe. 2 weeks later, the headlines began. Small at first, tucked into northern newspapers, federal investigation opened in Mississippi, county officials under review. The stories did not name him or his land. They spoke of missing records, altered files, and strange money trails. In a rented room in Chicago, Eli spread Marcus Thompson's papers across a borrowed desk. Lawyers came and went, making copies, connecting details. They talked about accountability and reform, slow words for slow victories. Eli understood. Some fights were won with time, not speed. By early fall, the effects grew clearer. Sheriff Halverson resigned, blaming health problems. 3 county commissioners stepped down within days. Pastor Crow vanished, leaving his church locked and his followers confused. Deputy Earl Denton disappeared more quietly. Some said he went to Texas, others guessed Oklahoma. No one knew for sure. More names followed. Men who had stood in torchlight that night simply faded away. Their absence piled up like fallen leaves. Quiet, ordinary, but changing everything. The papers did more damage than any bullet ever could. Marcus Thompson's careful records exposed corruption reaching far beyond one county. One trail led to another. Bank records showed strange patterns. Property transfers, old military records brought attention to inconsistencies that demanded answers. Eli followed everything from afar, earning a living as a mechanic in a modest garage on the south side of Chicago. His hands, once steady on a rifle, now repaired engines with the same exact care. The job fit him well, steady, structured, calling for focus and calm. The people living nearby knew him only as a reserved man who kept mostly to himself, yet never refused to help when someone needed a repair. Letters came often from Lillian, keeping him informed about changes back home. Caleb had stepped into leadership of a prosperous farm a couple of counties away. The local clan cell had splintered, its members turning against one another as investigations closed in. Some were hit with tax violations, while others disappeared before subpoenas could reach them. The night of the siege was never officially explained, but its weight lingered over every quiet resignation and sudden absence. In November, a heavy envelope arrived from a lawyer. Inside was a sworn deposition, 30 pages long, from a former clan member describing years of planned violence and deep corruption. At last, the man's conscience outweighed his fear. More depositions followed soon after, each one strengthening the case. Eli placed these documents alongside Marcus Thompson's records, watching the box slowly fill with proof. Truth, he realized, behaved like water, slipping through every crack no matter how tightly sealed a system seemed. Nothing stayed hidden forever. By winter, the changes could no longer be ignored. The county had a new sheriff, someone who had never hidden behind a hood. The church reopened with new leadership. Farms taken through threats and fear were quietly returned to their rightful owners. No official ever spoke openly about the full story, but everyone understood what it meant. The old ways were coming to an end. Eli adjusted to his new life. With the same careful discipline he once used to line up a shot, his small apartment slowly filled with selected belongings, books, tools, and a comfortable chair near the window. He sometimes attended veterans' meetings, though he rarely spoke. The men who had served recognized something familiar in him, but they never asked questions. On a cold December morning, exactly 4 months after the siege, Eli read the final headline. Federal investigation concludes reforms implemented. The article named no individuals and described no events. It spoke only of oversight and structural change. To most readers, it was just another dull report, but Eli understood what it truly meant. The victory wasn't loud or dramatic. It lived in the steady buildup of facts, in the quiet pressure of truth against lies. The system that once protected men like Sheriff Halverson wasn't destroyed in violence. It was taken apart slowly, one document, one resignation at a time. His name appeared nowhere in any report. That absence mattered. He had become what he once pretended to be, ordinary, unnoticed, just another face passing by. Now it was his choice, not his cover. In his pocket, he carried a single page from Marcus Thompson's records. his original marksmanship scores unchanged, not to remember what he could do with a rifle, but to remember what patience and accuracy could achieve, no matter the tool. 5 years after leaving Mississippi, Eli stood at the entrance of a converted warehouse on Chicago South Side. The sign above simply read, Veterans Marksmanship Association. Inside, the long room had been turned into a proper shooting range, lanes clearly marked, safety equipment neatly arranged along the walls. Morning light streamed through high windows as his students arrived for their weekly session. All were black veterans, coming from different paths, former infantry, mechanics, medics. Some carried visible injuries from service. Others held wounds that couldn't be seen. Every one of them understood what it meant to hold power and the responsibility that came with it. Morning, Mr. Mercer called James Wilson, a young veteran who had served in the Pacific. He walked with a slight limp, much like Eli's own. The others followed behind him, 12 in total that day. Eli gave a small nod as he watched them prepare. They moved with calm discipline, checking gear and adjusting safety equipment. No rushing, no careless motion, exactly as he had taught them. Today we're working on breath control, Eli said, his voice steady in the quiet room. A shooter who can't manage his breathing can't manage his aim. And a man who can't control his aim has no business holding a weapon. The men lined up, listening closely. Eli demonstrated the stance, showing how to steady breathing under pressure. His thick, practiced hands moved with ease through familiar motions. The veterans watched carefully, recognizing the authority earned through experience. Remember, he continued, this isn't about UT speed or how many targets you hit. It's about mastering yourself first, then the tool. He tapped the rifle resting on the bench. These are just metal. The real weapon is here. He touched his temple. One by one, the men took their places. Eli walked along the line, correcting posture, adjusting grips. His guidance was firm but respectful. Each correction delivered with quiet confidence. When firing began, the shots came slowly and with intention. Good, Marcus, he said to the tall man at the end. You're taking your time more. Let the shot surprise you. Marcus nodded and shifted his grip slightly. His next round landed closer to center. During a break, the men gathered while Eli cleaned a rifle, his movements automatic from years of repetition. Some knew parts of his past, whispers about Mississippi, about a night when patience proved stronger than anger. But Eli never spoke about it. He taught through action instead. Every session began with safety checks and ended with careful cleaning. He always stressed precision over force, control over speed. The lessons reached far beyond shooting. A gun makes noise, he said while reassembling the rifle. But noise isn't strength. Anyone can make noise. Real power is knowing when not to shoot, having the discipline to wait. The men nodded, understanding the deeper meaning. Many had faced moments where violence felt like the only option. Eli showed them another way, how to keep dignity without destruction. After practice, some stayed behind to help clean up. Eli watched them work together, trading quiet jokes and advice. A community had formed there, built on respect and shared experience. Mr. Mercer, James said as the others began to leave. I wanted to thank you not just for the shooting lessons. He paused, choosing his words carefully. My temper used to control me. What you taught us about patience, about control, it's changed how I handle things. Eli nodded. He understood completely. Anger burns fast, he said. Patience lasts. He had learned that truth through years of restraint, and now he passed it on, helping others find strength in calm instead of rage. The afternoon light angled through the windows as the last students collected their things. Eli stood by the door, watching them leave. They walked differently now than when they first arrived, straighter, calmer, more sure of themselves. Each carried quiet confidence, knowing not just their abilities but their limits. A police car drove by slowly, a normal sight in the area. 5 years earlier, it might have caused tension. Today, the students simply nodded and continued walking. They had learned that true power doesn't need to announce itself. Eli watched until the last man disappeared around the corner. Then he returned to his final checks of the range, each lane cleaned, each weapon secured. The routine felt grounding, like the steady rhythm of breathing before taking aim. I hope you found this story meaningful. Leave a like on the video and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. I've selected 2 more stories for you that are even stronger. Have a great day.